Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
In the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
He doesn't.
No matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
All right, and welcome to our special edition of The Rundown. I am your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by my man, Hot Rod Funderburk in the house. Special new way to bring The Rundown to you in this coronavirus epidemic that's going on. We've been forced out of the public locations that we had been in previously, but we've always thought about going to video, and this was a great opportunity for us to do this. And this is a special NFL free agency edition of The Rundown. Brandon Blakeney will be on with me later on in the week discussing some of these same topics, but I wanted to get at my man Rod Funderburk first to get some idea of how he feels about some of the things that have been going on. But for starters, what's going on, man? How you been? You been healthy? Been keeping busy?
What's going on, Des? Yeah, I mean, a little bit busy, man, but it's difficult due to come along with the coronavirus. They want everyone to stay inside, keep the social distancing separation, which I think the social distancing definition is something that we will always remember. I know I'll always remember it. But, there's not a lot been going on in sports except for NFL free agency, just trying to keep up with that stuff. But other than that, man, just trying to stay free of the coronavirus, trying to stay stronger than the coronavirus.
Yeah, man. Keep your hands washed and everything else. And we'll just try to, get through it from here. But like I said, I am excited. New format that will be on, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the Sports Clown Monthly YouTube channel. It'll be on there. And you can see at the bottom there, sponsored by Blue Naples Pizza in Kernersville. They are open for carryout throughout this curbside service as well. 336-993-7707. Give them a call, order your food, tell them The Rundown sent you over there. But my man, let's get right into it. The biggest news is the Carolina Panthers releasing Cam Newton after 9 seasons with the team. For starters, do you think that the Panthers will regret cutting Cam Newton?
This Cam Newton remains healthy. If Cam Newton comes back a healthy quarterback, the quarterback that we saw in 2015, who was the MVP award winner, MVP of the NFL, they're going to regret this big. I mean, Cam is one of those guys who has a chip on his shoulder. No one wants to get hurt. But when you're questioning, health of someone, every football player's health is always going to be in question because you can only start the season out as healthy as you're going to be. But hopefully Cam will be able to start season and be completely healthy. Hopefully he'll find a team that will give him a shot. But, I mean, Cam is one of those people that or one of those players that you just can't replace. He's not one that you just come by every day. Tom Brady even said it. He said his kids, whenever they play fantasy football, Cam Newton is the first quarterback to take so many things. And when you hear somebody like Tom Brady say that about a Cam Newton, you can't help but expect that when Cam Newton is healthy and is ready to play this game, trouble for the opponents.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I don't know if the Panthers are going to regret it yet, because I think what's happened is that when they cut Cam, for me, it was like, okay, now I understand what they're doing, because they're cleaning the whole roster. Like, I mean, actually, I just saw this morning that there's rumors that they might be trading DJ Moore, and that he's probably never even going to have a snap with his team in 2020, which was a shock to me because he's on a rookie contract. So I'm thinking all the guys with rookie contracts, McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, they're probably okay because they're relatively cheap compared to what they'd have to bring in to replace them on the veteran side. But having said that, people saying that, it's a possibility that he might be on the trading block as well. That, along with them cutting Cam, made me think, okay, this isn't about this is David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers. This is his way to basically put his mark or stamp on this team. And the only way to do that was to basically eliminate everything that had anything to do with the Carolina Panthers regime before he got there. Other than Marty Herney is still there at general manager, but even with him, he's in a reduced role. Like my understanding is he's basically just running the draft. Like he's not dealing with contracts or anything like that. Or many of these decisions that they've had, all the way from Luke Kuechly's retirement to now. You've seen them cut Eric Reed, you've seen them cut Cam Newton, you've seen them do all these things to all the major players on the team. It just feels like to me that there's just they are not interested in keeping anybody from the Ron Rivera, Cam Newton era. And that's a bit fascinating to me because Cam is 30, 31, and they kept saying they were going to wait for him to see if he was going to be healthy. Turns out, I don't think they were waiting at all. I think they were just trying to get to a point where they had someone already signed before they cut him.
Well, I don't know if they were waiting for him to get healthy or if it was one of those deals when Coach Rule came in and he said, hey, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. Because someone with common sense is not going to let a guy like Cam Newton just go, especially without knowing whether or not he is fully healthy and compete. Now, one of the things that the Panthers did do, which they had enough sense to do it, is they did not cut McCaffrey. Because you cut a guy like Christian McCaffrey, and he's still on the rookie deal as well, and, you're looking to fail. But I can't say that Coach Rule doesn't have a lot to do with these movements. Even the defensive coordinator, I think he spent some time with Teddy Bridgewater, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
they have a relationship.
They spent the year in New Orleans together.
Yeah. So they have a relationship. And don't get me wrong, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I just think that if it's me, I'm going to try and sit there and try and get Cam Newton to give me the best that I can get out of Cam Newton before cutting him. I have to know for sure. Now, Teddy Bridgewater, he did great when he took over for Drew Brees when Drew Brees got hurt. But there's less pressure when you're not the starting quarterback. There's not much expectations from you, and you can go win ball games. Not saying that Teddy Bridgewater is going to crack under pressure, but now all the pressure is on Teddy Bridgewater. As far as I see, he is the starter in Carolina. There is nobody else behind him. So now all the pressure on him. So if Carolina comes out winning, Bridgewater's in great shape. If they start losing, whether it's because of the defensive mistakes or drop balls, even things that don't have anything to do with Teddy, now you're talking about a whole nother set of pressure on Teddy that Teddy has not seen in at least 3, 4, almost 5 years since he was a starter for the Vikings before he, really ruptured that knee. So, nothing against Teddy Bridgewater, but a guy like Cam Newton has been through it. He's been through the injuries. He's been through the ups. He's been through the downs. Guys, in the 2015 NFL MVP. To me, you have to know that a guy like Cam Newton can't give you any more before you just send him down the river.
So with Cam, we'll stick with Cam here for just a bit. As of the time of this recording, Cam is still not signed to a team, which is a bit surprising to me until you find out that teams, because of the coronavirus, teams are not allowed to do their own physicals on these players. And with Cam obviously coming off of a catastrophic, foot injury, he missed 14 games last year, had shoulder surgery in the offseason beginning of last year. So there's a lot of injury concerns with teams wanting to, sign him. I know New England was sniffing around and requesting his medical report a week or two ago. But it almost feels like Carolina wanted Teddy Bridgewater. They waited until they could get a deal with him, because for me, it's like they could have cut Cam a month ago or 2 months ago. But if they had done that, then they wouldn't have known for sure they had a starter at that position. So when they signed Teddy, not only did they get the quarterback they wanted all along, but they kind of screwed Cam in the process because they eliminated his trade value. Like, there was no reason for a team to send a 5th or 6th round pick to Carolina when Carolina is sending out, Instagram messages and tweets about, it's been a great career for Cam and Carolina and all these other things. Why in the world would any team send any kind of draft picks over to Carolina when Carolina's signaling that they're moving on without Cam one way or the other. All you had to do was basically wait, a week or two and wait for them to cut or get cut, which is exactly what happened. And at that point, you can go pick him up for a fraction of what you would have had to pay if you had traded Carolina and picked up his $20 million that was supposed to be this season. So having said that, now that Cam is still a free agent, what do you think would be the best destination for Cam going forward? A lot of the places where he could start have dried up. So where do you think might be the best place for him to land?
Before I tell you the best place I think would be for Cam to land, I kind of want to mention what you're saying about the Panthers. To me, they did kind of kick themselves in the foot, because even if Cam is getting halfway back or slowly coming back, you don't, cut your nose off, spot your face. And what I mean by that is this: get some video of Cam Newton out there playing better, practicing better, putting weight on that foot, running on that foot. If you're the Carolina Panthers and you're going to get rid of Cam and you want to get some trade value out of this guy, make sure you have some footage that show Cam is the man. Some footage that shows, hey, Cam looks like he's at least 90, 85% healthy, which means by the time the season starts, Cam could be 100% healthy. If you're the Carolina Panthers, you have to do that in order to get some kind of trade value out of Cam. They didn't do that. So whatever reason they didn't do that, to me, it's not smart. But that's the Panthers. It's now what do you call it? Water off a duck's back, whatever you want to call it. Now, so as far as where Cam will land at, man, believe it or not, something that kind of popped in my head over the weekend was a place that has been getting quarterbacks for the last few years. And that place that I'm talking about is the same team that Cam lost to the 2015 Team Bowl, and that was the Denver Broncos. I mean, I don't see why Cam could go up there with Von Miller on the other side of that defense. The Broncos, they just cut Joe Flacco. The Broncos, they have a history of being able to bring in quarterbacks who have been, won Super Bowls, who are free agents, and they can just come in and give the Denver Broncos what they need. To me, if the Denver Broncos pick up Cam Newton's going to give them a whole nother dynamic that the Broncos have not seen in a long time, and that is a quarterback. And to me, if you put in the Denver Broncos, I mean, that moves the Denver Broncos, top two positions of the AFC West, in my opinion, as long as Cam Newton is healthy, of course.
I could easily see that. Denver would be you're right. Joe Flacco just got cut last week, if I'm not mistaken. And the fact that the rundown fun fact at the bottom of the screen there that many people aren't aware of, Cam Newton's the 9th former number 1 pick to be released or cut by the team that drafted him over the past 25 seasons. And I went back and looked at some of those names. There's some guys like Jamarcus Russell in there, but there's also guys like Mike Vick that got cut by the Falcons. Peyton Manning got cut by the Colts. So, I mean, this isn't something this isn't something that just doesn't happen all the time. So I don't think Cam should be shocked by this, although he appears to be just that online. I've got 2 places, and one of them is going to really interest you because one of them depends on him basically deciding that he's going to have to be a backup quarterback, kind of the RG3 route going forward. If he doesn't want to do that and he still considers himself a starter, I think Miami might be a good landing spot for him right now. They've got Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. They do have some young talent around them in the offense. They've got a high draft pick coming here whenever they decide to do the NFL draft. I'm not sure if they've moved that date yet or not, or if they're just going to do it in front of nobody or teleconference or whatever they're going to end up doing. But Miami's in a position where they could, make some moves and really, do something with Cam. And the AFC East is going to be wide open with no Tom Brady anymore. And from what I can see, New England hasn't done squat in free agency. I haven't seen them sign anybody. So Miami would be a good pick. My question for you, though, if he decides to go and he looks around and he says, okay, there's no starting position for me this year because Carolina waited so long to cut me. The first place I thought of, if he'd want to go there as a backup, would be the place where you're wearing the jersey of right now, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. And I say that because I'm looking at it thinking, okay, what did we just go through with the Dallas Cowboys? primarily they're trying to sign Dak Prescott, and according to the reports, they've offered him enough to be considered the highest paid quarterback in the league once he signs per year. So it would be eclipsing Russell Wilson's $35 million per year that he signed last year. They have not come to terms with that, and they tagged Dak. Would it not be straight Jerry Jones to go and sign Cam Newton to a 1-year deal, or a 2-year deal? Actually, that would make more sense. A 2-year deal where the team can have like a player option or something after year one. You give him, I don't know, $19 million guaranteed for the season, kind of a prove it year, but he would be the backup to Dak. And by doing that, now you're putting pressure on Dak Prescott and his agent to sign a long-term deal with Dallas, because now you've got Cam Newton sitting behind you in Dallas. And who, if given the opportunity, who do you think Jerry Jones would want to have more at quarterback? A 31-year-old healthy Cam Newton, or 24, 25-year-old Dak Prescott is going to be commanding the highest contract for a quarterback in NFL history? You being a Cowboys fan, which way do you think Jerry Jones would want to go, knowing everything Jerry's about, wanting to sell tickets, fill up Jerry World, and still have a chance to compete and be special? He'd be bringing in a former league MVP that, if the bet was good, could lead them to a Super Bowl appearance. What do you think? Would he be interested in signing Cam Newton to back up Dak Prescott and put some pressure on Dak's team to come up with a long-term deal, so they don't say, hey, well, we got Cam over here on the other side, we can just go sign him, you can go leave? I mean, what do you think about that option?
I think the cap and the money plays a big figure in that option. Who wants to sign a backup quarterback for $19 million? I mean, a backup, $19 million. I mean, that is a heck of a payday for a backup quarterback. I can see that happening if Dak was still on his rookie deal. I can definitely see that happening. But believe it or not, the Cowboys are actually back in talks and back in negotiations with Dak Prescott. And I'm in belief that we're going to be able to get a long-term deal signed with Dak Prescott fairly soon. I think it's going to happen before May. I think the long-term deal contract signing has got to be done before July the 15th. But I think we'll get something worked out with Dak by May. And to be honest, to me, Cam Newton probably would be the one who wouldn't take the deal. To me, a healthy Cam Newton says, I'm not a backup to anyone. Healthy Cam Newton says, I'm a starter. I'm going out here to prove that the Panthers shouldn't have never cut me. I'm going out here to prove that, look, football is a contact sport. I did get hurt, but now I'm back healthy. And whoever on me, they're going to come on the losing end big time. To me, that's Cam Newton's mentality. I think Jerry Jones would probably try to finagle some kind of deal like that. Probably wouldn't want to pay Cam $19 million. But like I said, the other side of that coin is I don't see Cam Newton taking that deal. I don't see Cam Newton going anywhere where he is going in knowing or has anything over 60% that he could be the backup quarterback. To me, that's just not Cam Newton's mentality. And as a matter of fact, I would see Cam Newton going to compete with Tyrod Taylor out in San Diego or LA Chargers before he would go down to Dallas to try and compete with Dak Prescott, who could still potentially be the highest paid quarterback. Because me personally, Tyrod Taylor or Cam Newton with the LA Chargers, I'm taking Cam Newton all day, given the fact that he's healthy. Tyrod Taylor just hasn't shown me enough. He hasn't shown me the dynamic where he's able to move the ball, run the ball, and things of that nature. He's never been an MVP. He's never been on the same board or the same sheet of paper as Cam Newton. He hasn't been, the guy who's been able to put a team on his shoulder and then carry him the rest of the way. To me, Cam Newton could go to the LA Chargers, compete against a Tyrod Taylor, take Tyrod Taylor out, and go from the East Coast to the West Coast and take a West Coast back to the Super Bowl. That's just my opinion. And who knows? I mean, that's why it's so fun. NFL free agency. It's always a weight game, and we see what we're gonna get. It's like Forrest Gump said, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
It's all we got right now. Like literally that, and WWE performing in empty arenas, and NASCAR doing these video game simulated races or whatever. That's literally it. I'm so bored.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of watching. I watched was Villanova against Georgetown, the '85 final. yesterday, and then I watched some of the Duke.
Yeah, which is one of the
game.
biggest upsets ever in NCAA tournament history, in my
It
opinion.
is. It is. They had lost to Georgetown 3 times that year, if I'm not mistaken, before that game. I've always said that the 91 UNLV loss to Duke in the Final Four is the biggest upset. That's always been my own personal thing. If not them, then NC State 83 beating Houston in the national championship game.
Houston.
Yeah, they had no business being there. And then I went back and looked at
that was huge.
The path they took to get there, because there wasn't 65 teams or whatever back then. It was like 42 or something. So you had a couple of at large, but State had 10 losses, so they had to win the ACC tournament, and they beat Michael Jordan's sophomore year at Carolina, coming off a national championship in the semifinals, and then they beat Ralph Sampson in Virginia in the ACC finals to get to the NCAA tournament, and then they had 2 or 3 close calls there. So just to even be in that game against Houston, just crazy. So I hate giving Wolfpack any kind of credit whatsoever, but that might be one of the biggest upsets there. And that might be something we talk about on a future episode of The Rundown, as everybody in the sports world is looking for material. But this NFL free agency edition of The Rundown brought to you by Blue Naples Pizza in Kernersville. Definitely check them out over off of Union Cross Road. They are open. They are serving carry out, great strombolis, pizzas, wings, and stuff. It's one of my go-to spots in Kernersville, so definitely check them out. Sticking with the Panthers real quick, I did see they signed Robbie Anderson from the Jets last week, which kind of goes against the idea. People think they're tanking for Trevor, meaning Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback that'll with all intents and purposes, probably this is last year at Clemson going into his junior year. He's going to probably be the number 1 pick, barring any injury or barring a bad season. But it's so hard to tank in the NFL because you got 53 guys. You're basically telling them, we need you all to suck so much that we can get a number 1 pick for next year and work off of that. We saw that happen last year. Miami, it looked like they were trying to tank the first couple of weeks of the season, this past season, and then they ended up rattling off some wins at the end. They beat New England in New England. It's just really hard to tank in NFL without just clearing your whole roster out, which it looked like the Panthers were doing. But if you look at their offense, actually, Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey at running back, you're going to have Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, at least 2 of those 3 at wide receiver. And then you can go and draft like a Thaddeus Moss at tight end from LSU, because Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator, is from LSU, so he would know the system. And now you've kind of created this really quick strike, fast offense that's going to be really hard to defend. And Teddy Bridgewater doesn't turn the ball over. That's the one thing I did notice with him in New Orleans. He does not turn the ball over. Like, he rarely throws interceptions. He rarely fumbles. What are your thoughts on that? Because it almost looks like the Panthers are set up to do basically shootouts all season long. It'll be exciting and fun, but a graphic that we put up earlier on, I'll stick it up there again. Only 4 Panthers are currently on the roster that played 30% of the Panthers' defensive snaps last year. And that's Brian Burns, who was drafted first round, Shaq Thompson, who just signed a new deal last year, Dante Jackson still on a rookie deal, and Trey Boston, who just signed a new deal with the Panthers last week. They're the only 4 out of the entire roster that have played at least 30% of the snaps on defense for the Panthers going into this year. So the defense has holes all over the place. The offense doesn't look that bad when you look at it on paper. Like, what are your thoughts on, what the hell are the Panthers doing? Because on one end, it looks like they're trying to tank, but then on the other end, it looks like they're trying to be competitive. What are your thoughts on what exactly are the Panthers doing here?
Well, I definitely don't think that they're trying to tank. I think they're trying to build the team that Coach Rule wants to have, and the team that he wants to see the Panthers develop into. I really think that's what they're trying to build. I just think that this first year coming up is going to be a tough year coming up. Number one, like you said, you have new guys who are playing, who haven't been around one another. They haven't even been in the Panthers locker room to even be able to gel with the guys who are already there. So anytime you have an issue where guys aren't able to gel and haven't played with one another, that always causes for bumps in the road. It's going to be bumpy, in my opinion, for the Panthers this coming up fall season. That is if the coronavirus allows us to even have sports this fall, which I hope that they do. So if the Panthers are going to start moving forward, I think to move forward next season in Matt Rule's second year. And, maybe they'll be competing for a wild cards playoff spot in his second year. And then maybe, winning their division possibly in the third. Coming forward, if we're able to have sports. I don't see the Panthers really competing the way that fans and as well as the owner would like to see them compete. And that just comes from a standpoint of guys not being able to have that camaraderie, not being able to gel together because it's just their first year playing with one another. So, like you said, they can go in the draft, get some guys, get that Thaddeus Moss, get him on a high strike offense.
I really want him.
The question is, you might get him. Moss. And to me,
I don't know.
The question is, who's going to run that defense?
I don't know if you remember or not, but a good friend of ours, Coach Willard over at East Forsyth, reminded me of this. Thad Moss was the tight end for Mallard Creek back in 2015 when they played East Forsyth here in Kernersville in the state 4AA semifinals. He was a freshman on that team. He transferred to Charlotte Catholic, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they crossed paths again a couple of years later in the playoffs. But we've seen Thad Moss in this area up close and personal. For those who don't know, he's Randy Moss's son. He was the starting tight end for LSU.
In NC State too for a minute.
I think he was at NC State for a minute. Then he transferred. He transferred out to LSU. You're right. So he's a Charlotte native. I mean, he went to high school here. It would be a great fit. Joe Brady's the offensive coordinator in Carolina. So the former offensive coordinator at LSU, and by all accounts, everyone's talking about him like he's going to be the next NFL wonder kid, like Sean McVay in Los Angeles, or any of these young guys that have come up. Everyone's saying Joe Brady's like the next guy that's going to be sought after, because I think he's only 25, 26 or something like that, or he's real young. So he's in the house. They get Thad Moss, say like third round. I'm still holding out hope that top of the second round, the Panthers snag Jalen Hurts at quarterback and have him sit behind Teddy Bridgewater for these couple of years and learn the system, learn what he's going to do or whatnot. Although I've been on record saying I think the Patriots are going to draft Jalen Hurts at the bottom of the first round. They're not going to go. The Patriots are not going to go into the season with Jarrett Stidham and whoever the other guy is at quarterback. They're just not. Like, I don't see that happening. And Jalen played 3 years at Alabama. Who's the coach of Alabama? Nick Saban. Who's Nick Saban close with in the NFL and has worked underneath before? Bill Belichick. They trade notes with each other on players all the time. People are fooling themselves if they think Bill Belichick has not called Nick Saban and asked him about Jalen Hurts, especially after Tom Brady, dipped out of town. And I'm gonna end it on this question here. Still in the NFC South, but this was more of a Panther themed rundown. But we can't escape the elephant in the room is that there's a GOAT now in the NFC South. His name is Tom Brady. He's signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is Tampa the favorite to win the NFC South?
I'm not sure if they're the favorite this first year, because again, I believe in teams being able to gel to gel. If they're going to be the favorites this year, Tom Brady's got to put in a lot of work during this offseason with his new receivers and his new ends and all those guys. They have to really put in some hard work outside of training camps where those guys just get together and really mesh with one another. If that's difficult to do or that doesn't happen this particular season here, I think it'll be Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints who will be the favorite. The following year, I could definitely see Tampa Bay being the favorites to win the NFC South with Tom Brady at quarterback. But if these guys, if Tom Brady can catch on to the scheme pretty quick and the receivers, are taking a lead, it could be. It wouldn't surprise me if the Tampa Bay and the New Orleans Saints are at the top of the NFC South this particular year. It just would not surprise me.
It amazes me that Tom Brady's 42. I think he's going to turn 43 in August, and Drew Brees is 40, and I think he's going to turn 41 during the season. And we just are assuming that they're going to be at the top of their divisions with a 43 and a 41-year-old quarterback. It's amazing to me. One of the free agent signings that I did want to talk about too before we get out of here for the day, Atlanta, the Los Angeles Rams cut Todd Gurley, and Atlanta picked him up. So I saw a graphic that said the Atlanta offense for the first time in history, they're going to start 9 out of their 11 guys are former first-round picks. They're going to be starting on offense for Atlanta. Julio Jones. I forgot the kid, Calvin Ridley from Alabama was a first-round selection. Of course, Matt Ryan. Now you got Todd Gurley in the backfield. Although by all accounts, his knees are shot. So no love for Atlanta with everything. It seems like it might be the perfect storm for them to kind of sneak up and win the division next year with the Panthers kind of retooling and New Orleans is a little older. And with Tampa, I mean, I guess anything's possible, but I mean, Tampa hasn't been to the playoffs in 10 years. And I do like the talent that's around him. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, the good thing with Tampa is this. This is the good thing. This is the silver lining in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. If you look at their record last year, Tampa Bay lost 7 games last year where they lost it by 1 possession. And their coach at the time, Jameis Winston, the crab leg thief, he was the gentleman who threw he threw at least 3 picks. At least 3 picks in each of those 7 games that they lost by 1 possession. Do you see Tom Brady? Do you see Tom Brady throwing 3 picks in a ball game that's lost by 1 possession? That is a heck of a stat. And
I don't think Tom Brady could do it if he tried. Chose to go to the Tampa Bay Bucs. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I don't think that alone. Now the only Now the only thing that bothers me a little bit about the New Orleans Saints is Drew Brees kind of started falling off at the end of the season last year. I don't know if he got fatigued, he got hot, he got tired. Maybe he had a strand of the coronavirus that we didn't know about. I have no idea. But something happened with Drew Brees toward the end of the last season. Yeah, I mean, Sean Payton had the coronavirus, but something happened with Drew Brees where he slipped at the end of the season. And I can't tell you what it was, if it was, Father Time catching up with him or what it was, but he did slide. Now, with the Atlanta Falcons, I don't trust Matty Ice at all. Once Matty Ice lost his Super Bowl, he is the same guy. It's like there is something missing. I don't know if it's a piece of confidence. I don't know if he's in his receivers. I don't know if he's missing confidence in the rest of his teammates. But there's something about Matty Ice that does not win the team over. I don't know what it is. It's just what I'm seeing. I'm not in the locker room, of course, but just from the eye test, there's some kind of leadership missing from Matty Ice that's unable to get his team, beyond the hump, especially after losing that Super Bowl to the New England Patriots that they lost, where they were up by 28-3. So, so no love for Atlanta at all. So are you picking Tampa to win the division with Tom Brady there in Florida? No state taxes?
Well, I'm picking either if I'm allowed to pick, 2 teams, it would be New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Bucs. If you're making me pick one, I mean, it's so difficult because, I don't know if Drew Brees is going to slide again. I don't know if Tom Brady is going to be able to gel with his new teammates this particular year. And then we don't know if Tom Brady is going to slide again. Max Kellerman on First Take has been saying for the last 3 years that Tom Brady is going to fall off a cliff based upon his age. At some time and point during the end of last season, Tom Brady's velocity on the ball doesn't look the same. His placement on the ball doesn't look the same. Now, granted, we could blame that on the receivers that New England gave Tom Brady to throw the ball to, or we can blame it on Father Time catching up with Tom Brady. I do not know. So I'm going to be honest with you. If you made me take a choice, I just flip a coin. Tails Brady, heads Todd Brees, and boom, the coin says so. It will be New England. It will be the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees is who I have this year.
So we've kind of ran through the NFC.
It's
gonna be close. It's gonna be close. I just hope the Panthers aren't 3-13 when all of it's said and done. But we're gonna stop it there.
But I wouldn't be mad if the Panthers. Well, if the Panthers were 3-13, I would not be mad. And the only reason that I would say I would, because I'm not a Panthers fan, but because you don't treat players like a Cam Newton the way they treated Cam Newton, in my opinion. Granted, I know it's football. I know it's a business. But still, Cam Newton is a heck of a player. Cam Newton has always given the Panthers 110%. So the least you could do is be 100% transparent with him and do exactly what you say you're going to do. You can't do like the president of the United States, say, hey, I'm going to keep you, everything is beautiful, and you think it's beautiful, and then all of a sudden you get a 180 30 days later. That's not right.
Amen. And that's a great endpoint right there, because yeah. So, hey, Rod Funderburk in the house, giving us that reel like he always does, man. I appreciate you coming on today to do this. Brandon Blakeney will be on a little bit later on in the week. We're going to try to pepper some rundown episodes in this format where we can. We, like I said, I was pretty adamant about that. I didn't want to just do shows just to do shows. I've been listening to sports talk radio. And no offense to anybody locally or anything of that nature, but I didn't want to do like just being on just to be on, because it starts to get repetitive to a point where it's like, okay, there are no sports. So, and our whole job is to report on sports and what's going on. And if there's no sports, we're in a unique position because we've done things in the past where we've had debates about topics that aren't time sensitive, like who's the greatest point guard of all time and things like that. We've done that. So people that are fans of the rundown, they can expect that kind of stuff from us. So it's not out the blue. But when you have a sports talk radio show or something on ESPN or FS1 or whatever, and that's not what you normally do, and you have to shift to that, I think fans start to get leery of it because it's not in your pocket. It's not what you normally do. And it comes off as being, oh, well, they're just doing it because they're on from 12 to 3 or whatever it might be. With us, we were doing that. We've been doing that the past 2 years. So we've always peppered that kind of stuff in. I did want to announce that we are planning on doing something special in April, the NFL Greatest Team Ever bracket. It's a month-long event. I haven't decided if it's going to be 48 or 64 teams. I think we might do a full 64 team bracket and do it that way. My plan is to invite media personalities from the area to participate in this. It's a voting process where we'll have 3 of us each region, and we'll basically go through the matchups that we set. When we get to around like the Elite 8, I think it's going to be me and you and Brandon deciding from Elite 8, Final 4, and then championship round on. But the round of 64 and the round of 32, I think we can have some fun, invite some people on that are probably in media right now, sports media in particular, and are twiddling their thumbs trying to figure out what the hell to do. That'll be coming in April from the rundown. So definitely stick around and get that. Any last words you want to give out to the audience here before I let you go here for the day, Rod?
No, I just want everybody to pretty much, stay optimistic about what's going on in society. Hopefully sports will get back pretty soon, and, continue to keep your family safe, keep yourself safe, and just use common sense as you move about day to day, and continue to be clean, wash your hands, do all that you need to do in order to stay safe. And hopefully, things will get back on track, and we'll have a normal society and be able to get back into the sports business as we have normal.
All right. Well, that's going to end this edition of the Rundown NFL Free Agency Edition. Like I said, Brandon Blakeney will be on for part 2 of this one a little bit later on in the week. Hope everybody's staying clean. Keep those hands washed. Don't touch your face. Stay home. I know you can go out and it's pretty outside and everybody you think is outside the parks and stuff. Stay home. Stay home. Don't get other people sick. Don't be a carrier. And really, this is some serious stuff going on right now. And the best way for us to get through it together is just to, stay home, follow the directions from local, state, and federal authorities in terms of what to do to stay healthy. And hopefully we'll come out on the other side of this a whole lot better for the trouble. So from my man, Rod Funderburk, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching The Rundown with Desmond Johnson. We'll be back later on in the week with part 2 of the NFL Free Agency Special. Very soon.